Hello and welcome to Liberty Wolf, episode number 41. My name is Zach Strong, the creator of this podcast. If you're new, welcome. Think about subscribing. Look at the content. Most importantly, though, if you like what you see, share it. That's why it's here, to be shared, to be learned, to be absorbed. So today I'm going to jump right into it. I don't have a lot of time. So I am talking about education. Now, education is crucial. I created a slogan for myself years ago. Education is the key. You could flesh that out a little bit and say that education is the key to all positive change in both individuals and society. I'm not really going to talk about individuals today as much as I am about society, though I think the principles apply to both. Now, first of all, if you really wanted to know what is education, what is that? Is it schooling? Well, Mark Twain said, I try to never let my schooling get in the way of my education. And that's been so true for me in my personal experience, going to various universities, is that formal schooling is often quite the opposite of education. I know at the universities I attended, conformity was very popular, groupthink, not thinking at all, not really inquiring. There was not a healthy culture of inquiry and curiosity. It's just kind of people nodded their head and kind of went along with things. And what did the professor say? I'm going to parrot that back. Why? Come up with your own conclusions. Learn how to think, and that's what education is about: learning how to think. It's a voracious, passionate pursuit of knowledge and ultimately truth. I think that's the goal of education: is finding, acquiring, grasping truth, comprehending reality. That's education. Okay? So education, this acquiring of truth, this comprehension of reality around you, of true principles, of principles that were true, are true, and will be true. That's truth. Truth is not finite, it's not temporary. That's against the definition of truth. And so I am all for that, and I think that is what changes people. It's what changes society. Society cannot flourish in darkness, in ignorance. It just is not possible. It has never happened in history. People didn't accidentally become free one day. They didn't accidentally set up an amazing system of free enterprise that created wealth for the society. It just doesn't happen by accident. Our founding fathers, who created the U.S. Constitution and who set up America, the greatest nation in world history, despite all our flaws, is still the greatest nation in world history. Those people were well educated, more highly educated than anyone living today, in my opinion. I mean, you look at someone like Thomas Jefferson, spoke about 7 languages, but that was actually pretty common back then, to speak multiple languages. A lot of our founding fathers could read and recite the Bible by age about 3 and 4 and 5. Today, people that age are like, blah, 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 blah. They have no idea what's happening in the world. They don't know anything. They couldn't recite the Bible. But in early America, there was actually a movement to make Hebrew the official language of the country. Hebrew. Because it was actually a required language in some major universities. You had to learn Latin and Greek and French and German and all these different languages. Jefferson said he learned in the course of about 2-3 weeks, traveling across the Atlantic, about 3 weeks I think it was. He learned Spanish in that time period with a little Spanish grammar book. And so these people were brilliant. And they knew science and they knew all these things. And they wanted to be able to read the original documents of Cicero and these different great writers in their original languages to really understand it. And so they were highly educated. They were brilliant. And so when they said things like this quote that I'm going to read from Jefferson, I have 2 from him, we should pay attention. Jefferson said to Charles Yancey, he wrote to him in 1816, saying, "If a nation expects to be ignorant and free in a state of civilization, it expects what never was and never will be." Close quote. Look in history. Find me an ignorant society that was ever free or that ever maintained any semblance of civilization and freedom and prosperity. You can't do it. I've never found one. History is what I studied, and political science. So another quote from Jefferson. the great sage. He said, quote, "I know no safe depository of the ultimate powers of the society but the people themselves. And if we think them not enlightened enough to exercise their control with a wholesome discretion, the remedy is not to take it from them, but to inform their discretion by education. This is the true corrective of abuses of constitutional power." Jefferson was a man of the people. He believed very strongly the people. They're smart enough to be able to decide and govern themselves. You just have to teach them correct principles. Here's another quote from James Wilson, who was one of the greatest legal minds among the Founding Fathers. He said in a 1790 lecture on law, he said this, quote, "Were I called upon for my reasons why I deem so highly of the American character, I would assign them in a very few words. That character has been eminently distinguished by the love of liberty and the love of law. But law and liberty cannot rationally become the objects of our love unless they first become the objects of our knowledge. The same course of study, properly directed, will lead us to the knowledge of both. Indeed, neither of them can be known because neither of them can exist without the other. Without liberty, law loses its nature and its name and becomes oppression. Without law, liberty also loses its nature and its name and becomes licentiousness. In denominating, therefore, that science by which the knowledge of both is acquired, it is unnecessary to preserve in terms the distinction between them. That science may be named, as it has been named, the science of law. The science of law should, in some measure and in some degree, be the study of every free citizen and every free man. Every free citizen and every free man has duties to perform and rights to claim. Unless, in some measure and in some degree, he knows those duties and those rights, he can never act a just and an independent part." Close quote. If we don't know our rights, how can we defend them? If we don't know what the Constitution says, how can we say, that guy's doing a good job? This guy we voted for, oh, he's great. How can we say that if we don't know what it says? I mean, he raises his hand and pledges to uphold this document. But what does that document say? What does the Bill of Rights say? Could you name how many rights even are listed in the First Amendment? Just the first one, let alone any of the other amendments. Do you even know how many amendments there are? We need to comprehend history. We need to understand law, true law, not the statutes that lawyers create and concoct and that are confusing and convoluted, but actual real law, these principles, these overarching things like the right to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed, those types of rights, the universal ones. We need to become educated because education is the key to positive change in our society and in your personal life. So I challenge you to become educated and don't get held back by your schooling and what professors say and what academia preaches, because they're often wrong. Get down to the grassroots. Find those first principles, as Alexander Hamilton called them, those essential core tenets of knowledge that you need. Pursue truth doggedly. And good luck. And that's all I have to say today. Sic Semper Tyrannis, long live liberty.